Hello. Yesterday was the coronation of King Charles as as our current reigning monarch. So I thought I'd go looking for a traditional British ballad, one of the broadside ballads which were written to commemorate, celebrate, or comment on famous historical events on a suitable royalist theme. Now, I've been looking through this book, A Ballad History of England from 1588 to the present day, and the only one I could find was Apple Day, written in 1660 by Henry Jones of Oxford. Now, the book says the ballad was written by Henry Jones of Oxford, though it refers to the restoration of Charles II in 1660. It may date in part from 1651. The narrative is closely paralleled in John Danverd's prose pamphlet, The Royal Oak, 1660. The ballad was preserved and annotated by the antiquarian Anthony A. Wood. It is now in the Bodleian Library at Oxford. Now, Apple Day was one of the festivals or customs celebrated in England, or at least the royalist parts, and it commemorates the time when Charles II was being pursued by Cromwell's army and hid in an oak tree. And there's a little piece about it in the book which says, "I remember that on 29th of May we had to wear a sprig of oak leaves, preferably with oak apples. This is in the Leicestershire village of Newton Linford, where I attended primary school in the late 1930s. We also carried a nettle, held with a dock leaf, with which to sting any who had neglected to sport the royal talisman. So was commemorated the restoration and birthday of Charles II. The loyal city of Worcester, so called because it remained loyal to Charles II and his father before him, from 1642 until 1651, still decorates public buildings with oak sprays on 29th of May. The book was published in the 1970s. I don't know if it does, if they still do that. After the death of Charles I, his son was proclaimed king, first by the Scots at Edinburgh, then by Englishmen at Carlisle. He marched south with his army to Worcester, where he was defeated on 3rd of September 1651 by Cromwell and his forces. The commandery, headquarters of part of the royalist camp, can still be seen at Worcester. Then followed 41 days of wandering as a fugitive before he took ship for France at Shoreham. Charles's first and most famous stopping place was Boscobel House in Shropshire, and when this seemed threatened, a nearby oak tree. The house can still be seen, and if not the oak, which was cut to pieces by Jacobite souvenir hunters, then its ancestor. Wow. Jacobite souvenir hunters, And the ballad is The Royal Patient Traveller, or The Wonderful Escapes of His Majesty King Charles II from Worcester flight, and is making a hollow oak his royal palace. The going in a livery cloak with Miss Lane, and the discourse between the King's Majesty and the cookmaid imploring the King to wind up the jack, but being not used to it, did wind it up the wrong way. God hath preserved our royal king, the second of that name, and those that will not pray for him, indeed they are to blame, for thousands have against him spoke, but I shall it disclaim, and wish all others have a care how they should do the same." David, we read, had enemies that did him sore annoy, so Charles II had the same, who is fair England's joy. In May was the 29, being Charles of high renown. Being his birthday, as 'tis known, to London came to town. But had you seen the triumph made, and bonfires flaming high, and all the people for to cry, God save his Majesty, I will rejoice at his happiness, and pray he long may reign. And of some passages he had with honest Mistress Lane. From Scotland he to Worcester came, though friends did look about. Yet Cromwell came with a mighty force, and did give him the rout. A journey long I'm sure he had, with friends the loving Scot. King Charles mounting himself so brave, 3 times his horse was shot. The king did therefore for his safety make friends to have some pity, For so our Saviour he doth say, as I write in this ditty, if persecution being great, of such then have a care. So at that time 'tis very true, one did cut off his hair. His princely clothes he oft did strip, and did himself disguise. So of King Alfred I have read, that was a prince most wise. A chain of gold that he had then, worth hundreds without doubt, he gave away unto a friend, who lead him thereabout, into a wood where inns was none, nor lodgings there bespoke. The best of lodgings he could get was in a hollow oak. O happy oak, saith Mistress Lane, that ever I did see, a palace for a prince thou wast, but he will go with me. Her serving man King Charles became, for so he thought it best, and she to free him from his foes did travel towards the west. For all the land was up in arms, in city and in town, and for King Charles to find him out it was £1,000. But Mistress Lane, virtuous and wise, so much did understand, that woeful hunting they did make for Charles of fair England. For through a town they then must pass, for there was no back lane. The horses' heels then up did trip, and down fell man and dame. The soldiers seeing of the same, at them did laugh and jeer, and she, suspicion for to shun, struck him a box on the ear. With angry words she seemed to speak, I think I am well manned, for such another I am sure is not within the land. To second it her brother-in-law so much in anger spoke, Well must my father then, said he, carry your man's cloak. It was too heavy then, said she, what need you be so cross? The burthen of it was so great, it threw us off the horse. Her nimble tongue and wit in prime, and being a lady gay, the soldiers laughing at them then did let them pass their way. God freed them from their enemies, for with him there is pity. At the 3 Crowns King Charles then lay, which is in Bristol city. For in the kitchen he was placed by his most loving friend, and modestly he there did stand, fearing he should offend. It made the kitchen maid much muse, she could not understand, that in the kitchen by her stood King Charles of fair England. For being by that fireside, she asked what countryman. At Birmingham the king replies, and a nailor's son. With hobs and speeches for some sluts, in words they are not slack. At her command King Charles must be, for to wind up the jack. Though mildly he did take this task, it seems he did want skill. The wrong way he did go about, and did do it some ill. Great clownish booby she him calls it, he was meek and mild. And though she used such taunting words, he at her did but smile. And for a time he made a stay, it seems in fair London, where he beheld such things as was said to his tender heart. Some grief at that time did he feel, from London did he part. A master of a ship at last, it seems was a good man. Did hoise up sail, and so to France, as I do understand. And that's the ballad. Obviously with some humour, and yes, talking about his flight, and his flight to France from, including to Bristol. Right? What does he say? 3 Crowns. That might still be around. I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, there are a lot of very old pubs in Bristol. And the tune for it goes... That's a suitable broadside ballad for a couple day. And I hope you enjoyed this, whatever your views on the monarchy is. Thank you.